me, I like being in situations that I can control. That was kind of the part of art that attracted me the most. I got to
Oh.
control my world.
Peace and welcome to the Art4Artists podcast, where we explore the experience of artists, one artist at a time. I'm your host, Dios, and today I'm honored to have a city legend. He's from Memphis, but he's a New York fashion photography legend. If you've seen a headshot or a comp card in your life, he might have shot it. Any black celebrity, artist, model coming out of here had to have worked with this man to make it in New York, in my opinion. He is responsible for so many people's careers, responsible for so many bookings in a manner that may seem indirect, but is the most direct way. All these comp cards you see behind me, shot. This is a real shooter. And honestly, someone that I can honestly say has helped me get to where I've gotten when it comes to modeling and photography and whatnot. Um, Without further ado, this is Tarrice Love.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah. Good intro. How you doing today?
I'm
Yeah, feeling good.
good. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. We're gonna get right into the questions here. Tell us about your background and how you got into your art.
Well, I mean, to degree what?
Like, what as deep as you want to go when it comes to background, like your childhood, how like your
I was
upbringing.
born the son of a sharecropper, like that type of thing.
That if that's the story, and it has something to do with how you ended up falling into your craft.
Well, I guess my mom was a teen mother.
Mm-hmm.
She had me when she was 14, um, in Memphis,
Mm-hmm.
and pretty much art was kind of a way to watch your baby,
Right.
keep him quiet. He
Mm.
liked crayons, he liked coloring,
Mm.
so keep him busy with that.
Yeah.
And it just kind of evolved. And once, I guess by the time I got school age, and it became a thing,
Mm.
and it gave me confidence in it, and it was a chance to create a world.
Right. Wow. Create a word. So when it comes to, because one thing about you that's so specific and so unique is you have the ability to like create an entire moment when it comes to some of your shoots. Like full disclosure, some of the things that Tara shoots, he like creates the wardrobe, and not so much as like, oh, like I'm gonna go buy it, but he literally makes and stitches and sews some of this stuff together, so um do you feel like that was like the first early signs or feelings of it when you're like, okay, I can draw, or I can, you're creating a world primarily there, and then did it evolve into photography from there, where you started finding yourself making the entire shoot?
Well, I originally wanted to be a fashion designer.
Mm.
My grandma was a seamstress, and when she would
Mm.
keep me and my brother, we would help her. We would cut out patterns and do all that stuff. That kept us busy, and it kept us from
Wow.
killing each other. You know.
Well, first of all, I've known Taurus for years. I didn't know that. I always saw like, okay, this is just a rent, because the clothes he make is not regular clothes. These is like high end, like you would wear them. I've been trying to get him to sell me some, but like the reality is, like I look at that stuff and I'm just thinking, oh, okay, my friend's really just talented. Like
Well,
that's what.
no, I wanted to be the Black Calvin Klein. He
Huh.
was the only designer that I knew of
Right.
growing up, so
Yeah.
I wanted to be the Black him.
Huh.
And I remember, I probably was like 9 or 10, and I was watching. It was a show called 48 Hours,
Mm.
and they would go 48 hours into like a situation,
Yeah.
and it was like Dateline,
Yeah.
but they did like 48 hours into the fashion industry.
Mm.
So they followed a brand new designer
Mm-hmm.
and an established star.
Hmm.
Calvin Klein was the established star. Marc Jacobs was the brand new one. he had just graduated from Parsons, and he was putting together his first show.
Wow.
And I sat there and I watched it, and I was just like, I thought it was just awesome. And especially he had like Calvin Klein was doing a fitting, and it was some girl standing in front of him. Of course, this is network TV, so they were filming her from the back, so we just saw her back, and she didn't have no top on. I was like, ooh, I want to do stuff like this. Shit, you get to be around like the most beautiful chicks, and they just be topless. Like, this is something I want to get into. Like, so I watched that, and then I watched the movie Mahogany with Diana Ross and Billy D. Williams. And so that solidified it. And I was like, this could be a job, drawing pretty girls and making clothes. I want to do that. And so I just dove hard into it. I read every book that the Memphis Public Library had that any kind of relation to fashion.
Wow. Yeah.
So I started getting those little sewing books. So when my grandma would have me and my brother help her, I was really diving in.
Right. Right.
And so I had got to the point, probably by the time I was maybe 11 or 12, I was like sewing without a pattern. Like, I would take my clothes apart and sew them back together to kind of understand how clothes were constructed.
Wow.
And also at the time, my grandma was a med student.
Okay, yeah.
And so me and my brother would do all her drawing assignments. And so that taught us about the human body and stuff like that. And so that knowledge combined with clothing construction to understand the mechanics of arms and legs and all of that. Just mushed it all together and just dove in on that end.
Wow.
And it really wasn't until how old was I? Like 16, 17. My best friend was wanting to be a model.
Yeah.
And so I would like make clothes for her, and she would wear them. Actually, wearing them, they was badly constructed, but
she would, hard to believe, but I get it.
But with much confidence, she would wear the stuff. I would follow her around the neighborhood, taking pictures of her in my stuff and all of that. But I didn't think of photography as a thing.
Wow.
It was just kind of like a means to an end.
Yeah, like it just naturally happened. You needed it for the moment. Huh?
Yeah. And so I didn't really get into photography until my sophomore year in college.
Right.
I just decided to take the class because I just wanted to understand the fundamentals of it, so that when I blow up and become the Black Calvin Klein, I will be able to know how to talk to like Richard Avedon and Stephen Meisel in their language. Like, but I just fell in love with it from the first class assignment.
Wow.
And so like my first class assignment was to capture a sense of place. That was the assignment. So everybody just took the school cameras. Everybody had a camera. We just went outside and took pictures of campus.
Yeah.
And so we went to the dark room, and she taught us all that, how to process film, And when we was all in there, we watching our pictures pop up in the water, and I didn't know which ones was mine because we was all shooting the same shit, and I didn't like that. Yeah. So I asked the professor. This was maybe like a Thursday, because the class was on Tuesday and Thursday. On a Thursday, and I asked her, could she wanted to take the assignments that Thursday so she could grade them over the weekend or whatnot. Right. And I asked her, could I wait till Tuesday? And she said, okay. So I called my best friend and I asked her to be my model. And And she was like, okay, she ain't doing nothing Friday. She don't have no classes. And she had just bought this Donna Karen dress
Mm.
because we went to her dorm and went through her closet, and she had this brand new dress that she had just bought, and it was a big deal to be able to find some Donna Karen in
Right,
Memphis
right,
in
right,
the '90s,
right,
like
right. Wow.
So, and I had bought her. She didn't have no shoes to wear for the dress,
Mm.
so she never wore the dress yet.
Mm.
And I had bought her these Doc Martens that I saw on the cover of Details magazine. Diggable Planets was wearing them. I called all over the place. We didn't have internet yet, so I had to actually call the magazine to find out where they sold them in Memphis.
Wow.
And so I bought myself a pair, and I bought her a pair for Christmas. And I told her wear the dress with the boots. There's a very grungy kind of look
Right.
to it. And so she was like, okay. So we rode the bus. We had no car. We rode the bus from her dorm to downtown Memphis. So I was going to capture downtown Memphis as a fashion thing.
Wow.
So it was like 20 degrees outside. It was rainy. It was freezing cold. I took her coat, walking around downtown Memphis, following her around in this dress and taking pictures of her. And I just loved the idea of my pictures not being like everybody else's.
Right,
And
right.
it really was capturing a sense of place.
Wow. Wow.
And so after that, of course, got an A. And
Yeah.
and but then I started doing fashion things
Yeah.
every time we had an assignment.
Right.
So for my final, everybody was scared to shoot people.
Mm.
So for their final, everybody had to shoot a person. They had
Mm.
to do a portrait. But for me, I couldn't because I've been doing it the whole time.
Right,
So
right.
she told me she's sick of all this fashion shit. Um, you have to shoot a still life.
Mm.
And I was gonna still make it fashion.
Right, right.
So my
What is still life like?
stuff, an object, things.
Oh, just okay. So it's inanimate objects.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
So I had my best friend bring all her shoes to my house.
Mm.
I built a set in my backyard because I didn't know how to use lights and stuff
Yeah.
yet. And so we just took pictures of all her shoes. And we and my grandma had flowers and stuff in her yard. So we threw flowers in the pictures
Wow.
and all of that.
Yeah.
And when she saw my photos, she was just like, you're just gonna always just make something be fashion, right? I was like, yeah, that's
Did she say that negatively? Like, was
like
that a negative?
she was really like, you pulled one over on me, because I really wanted you to do something else.
Right, right,
But
right.
everything still reads fashion because from the age of like 9 to now, it was just gonna always be in there.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it was just that she just kind of gave up on it. He gonna always make it fashion. And
That's
then I
incredible.
found the lights.
Oh. That changed the whole
Oh
game.
yeah.
That's
but
incredible.
but yeah, so that was kind of the beginnings of it. And whenever I would shoot something, you know, I would always kind of like ask her questions like, okay, how did Calvin Klein do this lighting where the background is completely white and
Mm-hmm.
all that? And then she was just like, now she really wasn't a photographer.
Mm. I can hear it
She was
here.
a sculptor,
Wow.
but she knew the basics.
Mm.
And so she told us that on the first day of class. She said, all I can teach you is the basics. I can't teach you how to see.
Woo.
So all I can do is give you the basic tools and you run with it how you run with
Right,
it.
right, right.
And so that was kind of how it began.
Wow.
That's the beginnings of Tarrice doing photography. After I took that class, that one photo one, I didn't want to do. I was like, I don't want to do this fashion like making clothes. I want to take pictures of clothes, and
Wow.
that's how that started. So for the longest, it was just doing photography, just developing it, trying to be better.
Yeah. What are some struggles you've encountered making your art?
Elaborate.
What, like, anything that you found yourself, and possibly something that's more consistent, so not something that you ran into one time and it was like, oh, I just have to hop over this, because we all have those in, especially photography. Any moment that we're creating something from our vision, we always have those stumbling things. But I mean, like, something that's persistent, like something that you may have, like, that comes up often, that you find yourself having to navigate.
I could easily say people underestimate me because of
Mm-hmm.
this,
Yeah.
but most of the people I'm around are this
Right, right,
too.
right,
So
right.
that's kind of like a given
Mm-hmm.
deal. But I feel like people underestimating me because I'm from the South,
Mm.
that's been a constant roadblock here in New York.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
And me coming in very confident about what I do
Yeah.
and doing it in a completely different way from everybody else
Facts. Yeah. Yeah.
made me a threat.
Mm. Mm. So literally
When
being a threat was a struggle in itself.
yes,
Huh?
or just being different and being my authentic self,
Right.
you
Right.
know,
Right. Right.
where people was constantly telling me how I should be,
Mm.
what kind of people I should be working with,
Mm.
and what kind of style I should be doing.
Mm.
Now, for the longest, I shot natural light.
Yeah.
And then once I started trying to learn how to use studio light, it was it was my strength.
Wow.
And then coming here, it was very dismissed.
Mm.
Oh, if you want to shoot editorial, you need to shoot outside. Well, I like shooting outside when I feel like it,
Mm.
but I think it's much harder because you need people to
Mm.
help you do it. Like
Right.
you don't just go outside,
Mm.
especially if it's a production, you
Mm.
know, you need somebody to help you with the lights, and you need somebody to help you carry stuff. You need somebody to watch, make sure you ain't gonna get robbed, or
Mm.
all of that stuff
Yeah.
comes with it. And when it's just me, I'm trying to hold the light,
Right. Right. Right.
the umbrella, the reflector, and all this, and then trying to,
Facts. Yeah.
it's a lot. And so for me, I like being in situations that I can control.
Mm.
That was kind of the part of art that attracted me the most. I got to
Oh.
control my world,
Wow.
you
Wow.
know?
Wow. I absolutely love that last line. That last line just goes. It creates, like, levels of thought when it comes to creating a world that, like, obviously you created it so you can control it. And um I think that's why so many people that, either have a troubled life or have an interesting life, or, I mean, everybody has an interesting life, but has, you know something to say, always escape to art, because it is the place that you can control,
Yeah.
your narrative.
Especially when, I mean, I feel like I could paint a picture where my life was terrible,
Mm, yeah.
but I just never wanted to do that.
Wow.
And art was the space where I got to be who I really wanted to be,
Wow.
or
Mm,
be surrounded by whatever I wanted to be, and create the dialogue
yeah. Yeah.
for my world,
Right.
you know. And I don't know, I just, that was just what it was for me. And being in the studio is my sweet spot.
Mm,
And because I can, I don't know, it's sort of like, this is where I get to be taught. I was always the littlest person. I was
mm,
super small. um I wasn't very confident in my presence.
mm,
So I was invisible.
mm,
I didn't talk until I had to.
mm.
And most kids in school thought I was deaf because I never spoke.
Wow.
They thought I couldn't, you know. I was a straight A student all through, but people really, they knew it, but they didn't. It was just kind of dismissed because there was so many A students in my high school years, and well, it wasn't so many, but it was a.
Yeah,
I was always around the smart kids,
yeah.
so they knew I was one of them, but I was invisible. I felt invisible, and art was where I didn't have to be. I wasn't invisible because I controlled everything.
Wow, that's like, oh, I love it. Clip. That's a clip. We gotta cut that. That's so perfect. I love it. That's what we put on Instagram because that is motivating. That is beautiful. That is like that is what the like. I love to give this platform for people to speak because we've had so many conversations, right? Among the years, like I could think about so many times we've had really in-depth, beautiful conversations before we shoot, and this conversation just because it's very specific questions about a very specific thing that obviously you love and have been doing at a high level for so long, like just asking these very specific questions brings information that I never knew about you, but also like your story and how important, like, because again, there was something that brought me to you that it was like undeniable, but like, and I remember the first time coming here, the first thing I said was like, there's something about your stuff that is like, it's entrancing. Like it makes me want to stay like staring at the photo. And you told me that like your aim is not to just shoot and like shoot whatever you want or like manipulate, but literally to bring out the essence of the person as much as possible in the photo, you know?
Well, I'll tell you this because I used to bullshit myself to think that.
Right.
But my best friend, I asked her, what did she like about my work? What did she not like about it?
Oof.
And she told me she loves the attention to detail, the textures, the tones. She loves that silk looks like silk.
Okay.
You have an idea of how it feels just by the way it looks. And she loves that she feels like she knows those people. Like there's something familiar about them, even though they're complete strangers to her.
Wow.
And then she's like, that's because I know you. That's you, I see. That's the familiar element. It's you. You know? Because these people are complete strangers. And like when I was in Memphis, she would run into people that I've shot.
Right.
And she would walk up to them and start talking to them like she knew them. And then they would be giving you the look.
Right.
Like, and then she would realize, oh, they don't know me, you know.
Wow.
Type of thing. So that was a thing that I took from the conversation. And she also said the thing that she didn't like is that people look at what I do and think this is me at 10, you know.
Wow. What a compliment. Like that's the
but she was like, this is you at 0. This is you with no access. This is you with nothing. Imagine if you had access to designer clothes and a makeup artist and a stylist and hairdressers and a amazing locations. This is you with bare minimum. And they think this is the best you bring to the table.
Wow. Amazing answer from her. We are at 24. We are going to push through because there's so much that I want to say, but obviously we'll just keep diving further and further. It's 24, so we're going to get a good question in. How about if you had the chance to tell an artist that's starting out something to motivate them to get started or to move forward, what would you tell them?
Read, study.
Wow.
I remember a photography. Whenever photographer people like reach out to me, I always tell them take a class. If you never you don't have to go to college and pay tuition, but one photo class will change everything about the way you see your work, the way you talk about it, and the way you look at it. And I mean, it did that for me.
Right. That's
so reading, and I hate when when young talent, when you ask them like, "Oh, who's your favorite photographer?" and they say stuff like, "Oh, I don't look at other people's work,"
Right, right,
you know,
right,
like
right.
that would be like Beyonce. Who's your favorite singer? Oh, I don't listen to other people singing.
Mm.
I just listen to my own. And you know that's bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
How how, how can you say? Or I'll go dive deeper on the question. They're like, well, what made you want to do this in the first
Facts,
place?
facts.
Because you had to see something, hear something, something happened
Mm-hmm.
that made you want to pick up a camera and do this.
Mm.
You saw somebody's work.
Right, right. And it did something to, I feel like that was one of the most, like, it was such a simple answer because the answer was basically read, basically study, right? But it's so complex because it opens the door to like what I'm understanding right now in my art and music is like just going to just take an online course on the literal program that I have to use, just like going to take a Photoshop program course, like just taking the time to learn, it makes me learn about the technical thing, like aperture and ISO, all these things that you would actually need to know. They're on the camera. Yes, you can intuitively like, yeah, let me press this button and see, oh, it does this, but you don't know the actual word. So you don't talk about your work in these technical terms that would literally attract other photographers or other people you can learn from. So I think you literally are just like putting on this not I don't want to say armor, you're not defending yourself from anything, but you're literally putting on these like weapons of learning how to navigate this, you
Well,
know.
my mom used to say this: learn as much as you can because people can't fuck you over if you know.
Oof. Oh, that's another one. Oh my god. What kind of situations brought about that like conversation?
Just life. I don't think it
Mm.
had anything to do with art, but
Oh,
that's what I took from it, you
wow.
know.
Yeah.
And when I wanted to be a designer, I went and got every book I could find, any book that had anything about fashion. Sometimes I
Mm-hmm.
read books and started realizing, oh, this is fiction and this is like a romance novel. I
It's
don't want to
enough.
read about this. You know, I want to know. Or you pick up a book and it's how to make sweaters or anything, but I still was trying to know
Wow.
because
Yeah.
I wanted to know everything that Calvin Klein knew.
Mm.
And it's sort of like you're less likely to be taken advantage of
Right.
if you know what's in front of you.
Right.
You know,
Wow. I uh I honestly I feel like we should do a second episode. This is so powerful. I am so grateful for this opportunity, but I like again as a as a client of yours, as a friend of yours, as a or another fellow photographer, I am humbled by your story. Like every time we talk, I always tell you the same things. Like, yeah, you should make this shit a documentary or a story or some shit like that. Like your story just gets better, but it also just it continues to make me see your work in a grander light. Like I've always had a respect for it. It's impossible not to, in my opinion, if you like understand art or fashion or anything of that nature. But yeah, like this conversation has really brought another like found respect to your craft. Last thing I would like to do is just have you plug into wherever they can find you on social media so they can
well,
follow your
you should
story.
have told me this ahead of time.
Oh,
I don't know. You can find me. Just Google my name,
that part.
and all the stuff will pop up.
Yeah, Tarrice Love in Google. We not plugging the Instagram. We're not
But
plugging the
I mean, you can
TikTok.
search it,
You can find it. You gonna find it on Google though, because this it's only one Tarrice Love.
and
There's
you're
only
gonna put
one.
the links on the post.
Yes, 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 I am.
Okay.
Yes, I am. But you know, I'm mechanically doing my part.
Okay.
But this has been Art for Artists. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope this episode has been as beautiful for you as it was for me.